It's been how many months now since the last alternate Rundown 6 guide? Oh boy. I really wish I could have gotten all these alternate Rundown 6 videos out before the release of Rundown 8, but sadly, that just wasn't possible. Oh well, chin up, Scaler. These videos need to get done at some point, and it's better to be late than never. So without further ado, it's time to guide you all through alternate R6C1. Hello everyone, Professor Scaler here, and welcome to the alternate R6C1 level guide. As always, we're starting off with your loadout, and today we have a simple one, but man oh man do I love bringing it into this level whenever I play it, and that would be a biotracker and 3 burst sentries. Reason for this loadout is because a biotracker, nice tool to have. I never go into a level without it, as the information it provides is invaluable, and the 3 burst sentries, these help out tremendously for every single one of the alarms in this level. For the first 2, we're going to be leaving certain doors open and shutting others to have a nice one-way funnel, which one-way funnels with sentries just makes quick work of all the enemies. And for the final alarm, we're not using a funnel strategy, but it is a traveling alarm, which is going to take quite a while to finish, which whenever you have a lengthy alarm, mines of seafoam, they can help out a little bit if you're able to keep seafoaming the doors over and over again, but we can't do that in this situation, so having 3 sentries instead will be a whole lot more efficient. If you go into that final alarm with all 3 of your sentries being almost all the way, if not completely filled with ammunition, and you position them properly, you won't have to deal with pretty much any enemies whatsoever for the entirety of that alarm. The sentries will just mow through pretty much everything for you. You just shoot the few enemies who do make it past, and you'll have a much easier time completing this level. Dropping down into the level, you'll see that your main objective is to collect 3 data cubes, and you and your teammates are going to be starting off inside zone 143. In here, not really a whole lot to take note of, just enemies to deal with, resources to collect, but at the far eastern side of it, you'll find your security door to zone 144, which is where you have to head to next. Now, this security door is going to have a class 4 cluster alarm tied to it, and as you can see with the map overlay, there are 2 possible spawn locations for these enemies. Now, what you're going to want to do is have every single one of the highlight doors shut, except for these 2 doors right here, which you're going to leave open. This will ensure that all the enemies throughout this alarm will funnel in through the western side of the room, away from you and your teammates and those scans, and we're going to have all 3 of our sentries over there. That way, no matter which one of those 2 doors they do come from, they're going to have to go through the line of fire of all 3 sentries in order to get to us. Once everything is set up and you're good to go, activate that alarm and get to work on the scans. Once everything's finished, deal with any enemies left alive, pack up your sentries, and you can head right on inside. As for zone 144 itself, not really a whole lot in here, just a fair amount of enemies to deal with in a pretty small room, more resources for you to collect, and then there'll also be a security door to zone 145, which this security door is going to have an error alarm tied to it. This error alarm spawning in 4 regular strikers or shooters or hybrids roughly every 40 seconds. Most of the time, you're just going to get 4 regular strikers or shooters, or maybe 3 strikers and 1 hybrid, but I have had a few times where I even get 2 hybrids in a wave, or sometimes even 3, although that is fairly rare. The nice thing about this error alarm though is that it's not permanent. There is a way to deactivate it, however we need to go to a terminal located inside zone 146. So as soon as you've grabbed all the resources in 145, or at least all the ones you can actually make good use of without being wasteful, and you're ready to go, do the full team scan tied to that security door, and then rush right into zone 145. You're pretty much just going to be blasting or meleeing your way through the rooms as quickly as you can, looking for resources and whatnot, also dealing with the enemies from behind when they do catch up to you, but also you want to keep an eye out for a key card, as the security door to zone 146 is locked and requires that key card, which will always be located somewhere inside zone 145. Once you have the key card though, you just keep going throughout until you get to the back end of the zone. There you'll find that security door to 146, put the key card into it, do the full team scan, and once the scan is finished, you can head right on inside. Immediately to the left of you, you'll be able to see the terminal, so one person gets on it, deactivates the error alarm, while the other 3 people just deal with any enemies that still might be alive from behind. Once the error alarm is deactivated and all those enemies are dead, you can then just go without 146, deal with a few more enemies, grab some resources in here, and at the back end of it, you'll find a security door to zone 147. This door is going to just simply have a full team scan tied to it, and inside of Zone 147, there won't be any enemies or resources, but there will be your very first data cube. However, once you pick up this data cube, you and your teammates will be teleported out to a desert arena, and you'll have to survive out here for 60 seconds against waves of flyers who will periodically spawn in. So what I recommend you do is before you grab the data cube, heal people up a little bit, maybe just to 40% bare minimum, as you don't really need a whole lot more HP than that. You can either all just group up in one area, maybe place down your sentries, although sentries are not always the best against flyers, so maybe just rely on your own guns. Or you can run around a little bit, split up, and just try to dodge projectiles. Important thing is just make sure you're not staying in place for too long, that way the flyers have a little bit more of a difficult time actually hitting you. Once the 60 seconds have transpired though, you and your teammates will be teleported back into the complex, and now a security door towards the beginning of the level, specifically the one to Zone 148, will unlock. So go on ahead and just backtrack to Zone 143. Any of the zones you go through, go on ahead and grab resources in them if you happen to leave anything behind. And once you do get to the security door to 148, all that's tied to it is just simply a checkpoint scan, and once you finish it, the door will automatically open up. Inside Zone 148, there will be a security door pretty early on to the northeast corner of it. However, that is under lockdown until you get the second data cube. So you're just going to make your way through room by room, clearing out the enemies, grabbing resources and whatnot, and going to the far western side of it, we find a security door to Zone 149. This security door is going to have a Class 5 alarm tied to it, and as you can see with this map overlay, there's only one possible spawn location for these enemies. And how you're going to want to set up for it is have every single one of the doors I've labeled shut, except for one that apparently isn't on my map overlay, which I didn't realize until recording this, which is going to be the door up above in your room at the top of your staircase. That is the only door that you want to leave open during this alarm, that way every single one of the enemies funnel in there no matter what. Then you're just going to simply have all three of your sentries up there facing towards that bridge that enemies will be coming across. Once all the doors are set up though, and you're good to go, activate that alarm. Once you finish the scans, deal with any of the enemies still left alive, pack up your sentries, and then you can head into Zone 149 itself. Which inside of here, there will be no regular strikers or shooters. The only type of enemies you can expect to see would be giant strikers and giant shooters, and there's going to be a fair amount of them, especially in that second room. But there are also a lot of C-foam grenades in this zone you could potentially find, as well as a few resources to collect. So make your way through the first room. I highly recommend just melee kill any of the giants who are isolated, and if you do happen to have a few of them grouped up really close to each other that you can't really safely melee, just leave them for last and then shoot them once everything else is dead. And once you collect the first room, go into the second room, just do the same thing in there. If you've been playing well up to this point, you should have plenty of ammunition, so if you do have to go guns aloud for a fair amount of giants, it's not that big of a deal. But once everything in the zone has been cleared out, go around, grab resources, get some C-foam grenades, and then you'll find that security door to Zone 150, which is just simply going to be a full team scan. As for Zone 150 itself, this is all one big room, and in here there are going to be 5 scouts patrolling about, which is the main reason why I said you want to clear out those giants, because if any of these scouts wake up, every single one of them is going to alert with it, and that scout wave is going to spawn from behind you, which means they will pull those giants from the previous room. But just make your way through here, melee killing each of the scouts one by one. If you and your teammates are not all that comfortable in melee killing scouts, utilize those C-foam grenades as it makes it a whole lot safer to do. And once all the scouts are dead, go around, grab resources from in here, and at the back end of the zone, you'll be able to find the security door to Zone 151, which is going to have a Class 2 stealth scan tied to it. Once you finish every single one of the scans, you can open up that door, and inside of Zone 151, no enemies to deal with, no resources to collect, but there will be your second data cube. Once you pick this one up, just like before, you'll be teleported out to a desert arena, although this time you now have to survive for 110 seconds. Surviving this one is a little bit more difficult than the previous one because you're out there for almost twice as long, and I feel like the flyers spawn in a little bit quicker than they did in the previous one, so I would highly recommend heal everybody up as much as you can, or at least a fair amount. I would say bare minimum, try to make sure everybody is 50 or 60% or higher, and then also make sure everybody's ammunition is looking good. But it's the same thing as before, either hold out in a corner and just shoot the flyers as they come after you, or maybe run around a bit and just keep on dodging the projectiles. Once you have survived for the 110 seconds though, you'll all be teleported back and you can revive anybody who might be down. And then at this point, you're just going to backtrack into Zone 148, where that security door from earlier will now be unlocked. Again, if you left any resources behind, feel free to grab them on the way back, and once you do get to that security door, specifically the one to Zone 152, you'll just have to do a checkpoint scan that's tied to it, and the door will automatically open up afterwards. As for Zone 152 itself, once again, a very big room, all one area, but there are going to be no sleeping enemies in here whatsoever. There will be a security door to the north to zone 153, which is ultimately where you have to go, but this security door is locked until you put a command into the terminal located at the bottom of this room. So what I recommend you do is on the way down, keep an eye out for boxes and lockers, as there will be a decent amount of resources in here, and once you've grabbed all the resources and resupplied as best as you can, you are going to want to set up your defenses. Because once you put the command to that terminal, a traveling alarm is going to initiate, and this is the one that can get a lot of people killed if they don't set up for it properly. As you can see with this map overlay, there are two different locations enemies could possibly spawn from, and there are two doors we could utilize, so bare minimum, go on ahead and shut both of those doors. If you have any explosive trip mines or C-foam grenades, also utilize them on them just to keep enemies out for a little bit longer. And then when it comes to your sentries, just position them towards the top of the room facing towards that open security door, kind of like you can see in the background footage. This will make it so that as enemies are going throughout that previous room and actually approaching the doors, the sentries will be able to shoot at them a bit, and once they make it in, they'll still be able to shoot at them, which will pick off a lot of the enemies for you. Once everything is set up, you can then go to the bomb all together as a team, put the command to the terminal, which will cause a traveling alarm to initiate, and then you and your teammates just have to follow that scan and deal with any enemies who do happen to make it past your sentries. During this alarm, most of the enemies are going to be regular strikers and shooters, although there will be a few hybrids here and there, as well as a few flyers, and typically the flyers and hybrids can make it past the sentries, as it's a little harder for the sentries to actually pick them off. So of course, BioTracker, keep an eye out, tag enemies who make it into the room just so your teammates are aware, but assuming all three of the sentries are positioned effectively and they all have a fair amount of tool refill in them, you shouldn't really have to worry about that many enemies until pretty much the very end of the scan. Once you make it to the top of the room though and the scan is completed, just deal with any enemies who are still left alive, and at this point, you and your teammates are home free. You just have to head over to the northern security door, do the full team scan tied to it, and inside zone 153, no enemies, no resources, just simply the third and final data cube, and once you pick it up, you will be teleported out to the desert realm, although a little bit of a different area this time, but no enemies are going to be spawning in and coming after you whatsoever. You can just look around a little bit, maybe see if you can find any secret things off in the distance, and after a short duration, you will be teleported back into zone 153, and the security door to the north to zone 154 will now unlock. This door is just simply going to have a full team scan tied to it, and inside of that room, you'll be able to find your extraction scan, which is a silent scan, so once again, no enemies coming after you, and once you get to 100%, you are done and you have completed alternate R6C1. And that's all there is to it. Alternate R6C1 is divided into three neat little portions. The first portion's main focus being surviving that error alarm as you make your way to the very first data cube. The second part being all about stealthing through zones with fairly dangerous enemies in them that can quickly end a run if you don't play it well. And the third part throwing the first ever traveling alarm at you, which to this day is still my favorite iteration of it. The final room was breathtaking the first time I saw it, and is always something I love showing to people who have never completed the mission before. As always though, thank you for watching this video all the way to the very end. I do hope that I was able to provide you with some assistance in beating this level. If you have any tips or tricks for this level that you want to share, any questions from me, or you just have something in general that you would like to say, please do let me know down in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me, and if you want to join my lovely community, there's a link to my Discord down in the description, as well as some other links you might be interested in. Among those links being one to the official GTFO merch store, which, as always, I highly recommend you check out if you're a fellow GTFO enthusiast and you're looking to pick up some sweet merch. Until next time, now that all the Rundown 8 level completions and guides are out, it's time to get back to wrapping up the rest of Alternate Rundown 6, and hopefully, I'll see all you wonderful people in the next video.